Welcome to Smokey, Steve, and Marc.
I'm Mark.
I'm Steve.
This is Bandit.
No Bandit.
Welcome or welcome back.
Happy Friday.
Yes, happy Friday, happy weekend.
Very, very excited.
I've been very happy that it's the weekend.
These 4-day weeks are always such. These 4-day weeks, they cram 6 days worth of work
like
into
it's
4.
I know.
When you're home
gosh.
Tuesday, it's like, the week's half over. I'll tell you, from 2 o'clock till 4:30 today was the longest. If I had 6 months to live, I'd spend it doing that particular job. It would be the longest 6 months of my life.
Yeah, I was busy today too. Oh my gosh.
You were swamped for where you guys were.
One patient after next. It was just a busy day.
Busy. Well, as you know, it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and we're coming in on the end of it.
Yes.
So I did a couple talks about what was going on with me with treatment and how I was feeling, and then Marc shared on his experiences as well.
Mm-hmm.
So now you get the couple.
You get us
together. Because there's situations that deal with living with someone with a mental health concern, and we both have and live with that.
Mm-hmm.
So our experiences look a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Than one versus the other, and how we kind of take care of ourselves is a little bit different than one or the other. Talking about stigma, first of all, I think one of the things that you did well with talking is one of the best ways to break stigma is to break it.
Yeah.
Just have a casual conversation about whatever heavy topic it is. And because there's stuff in there.
And that's what's good about Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yeah, it drags it to the front.
People start to talk about it, and expose the fears because, there's so much fear behind mental health. If you're new to mental health issues, it's the fear of not knowing what it is or not wanting to talk to someone because they may judge you or what will they think of you.
Yeah.
Then there's the internal fear of not knowing what it's going to look like or how am I going to feel or what are other people going to think.
Yeah.
And then there's the ultimate fear that you have spoken about that has to be so scary, is the fear of like, okay, I have a mental health issue. What happens if I have a mental health break and I don't come back? Yeah. And
I fear that more than death.
Yeah, you do. Because he's mentioned this many times.
Unless I slip into some state of dementia where I'm really happy, think it's the same day all over again. You know, I've been at state hospitals and there's people who they need support for the rest of their lives. So some have been there 40, 50 years. Usually people don't live that long.
Yeah.
But that's my fear. What if today's the day I set sail? Yeah. And I joke about it to try to laugh about it, Mm-hmm. I'll be like, did you hear that noise? I'm like, no. I'm like, that's it. Today's the day. To the moon. So that's a little...
But they're very, very, they're real fears, and I am, admitted, like you have diagnosed mental health issues that you have dealt with pretty much your whole life.
More than that.
And, mine are nowhere on that level, but I have experienced all three of those fears. Yeah. I have. And, and the only way to I don't know, kind of get through that is to expose it and talk about it and bring awareness to it, for people who don't know anything about it and for people who are experiencing it. Yeah. So I do like that part of Mental Health Awareness Month, definitely.
Yeah, and there's room for peer support too. Mm-hmm. In the addiction communities, because that falls under mental health as well. Yeah, substance use disorders, the new way they call it, they'll change it in 2 years. Don't get married to it. They do it every 2 years. They change stuff.
They do.
But relying on peers, other people who've lived through the same experience, and so they have some experience of their own with like hope. Like you work with people who are in recovery. I work with people who are in recovery. Yeah. And it's inspiring to see people come from positions that you're not sure they're going to make it.
Yeah.
And you kind of feel bad about yourself for thinking it's negatively about someone. Like, I don't want to think in my head, some people are beyond hope, but some people might be a little beyond some of that stuff. And that's the uncomfortable part of talking about
real life. We're just humans as well. I have people that I see that I'm like, he's a lost cause, and it's okay to think those things, but I certainly, of course, don't act on them. Yeah. But I have found out that most of the ones that I think that way are the ones that like succeed and do better than the ones that I think got this down.
Oh yeah. I'd always be curious of someone who protests so loudly about their mental health. And I talked a little bit from my end. I sometimes lose perspective if I'm at like the very beginning or at the very end of some mania and high energy stuff. I just don't see what the problem is. I don't get it at all. Luckily, having a family member who does and who's seen it, you can do some speaking for me if I can't. And we've talked about that a lot too.
Yeah.
I have a mental health advance directive, which is like a living will for your mental health. You make it when you're well in anticipation of being sick.
Yeah.
And you were my dad was always the person who was on as the emergency contact.
Yeah.
Well, mom and dad are getting old.
Yeah.
So
getting older,
probably have the husband
step
into the place and
be the.
But I would pick you anyway.
Yeah.
Just have someone I trust, because you're going to be my voice when I can't speak,
right,
or when I'm speaking gibberish, or when I haven't spoken 2 months. You're going to be the person who lets them know what I wanted. And how do you know? I'm not going to let you guess. I'll tell you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. When you're well.
When I'm well.
These are my wishes. And I'll tell you this, these advanced directives, it's a really good thing, and not a lot of people know about it. I never heard about it until he had mentioned it to me. And you actually do, like,
I train
lectures about that.
On how to make it. Every state is different, so what I tell you here would be useless.
Yeah.
But generally the premise is the same for that. You make decisions about treatments, what helps, what doesn't. Like, why spend 2 weeks in a hospital trying 5 meds you tried 2 years ago that didn't work?
When you already have that.
But if you're new to that hospital, and admissions can be hazy, especially if you're very sick, so remembering the list of 12 medications I take could be a little more challenging.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of shoot from the hip. So anywhere to give them more information is more help. And the advanced directive is one way to do that.
Yeah.
In Pennsylvania, they're supposed to scan it into your electronic medical record, your chart, to have it there. Yeah. And they're supposed to ask you if you have one when you come into the hospital. Ask me. When I went in for my giant infected life last July.
Oh yeah, that was a trip.
Yeah. That was good though. See, I needed quite a bit of mental support though during that. I've never been in a hospital where it wasn't, I don't want to say my fault, but most of my challenges have to do with self-inflicted, self-defeating kind of behaviors. But that was the first time I was in the hospital just for something like that. And I'm like, your dad, as he walks down the street to wave to me from the street, because the hospital was literally like a block away.
Like a block away. I think I took you guys with us when we went down.
I think so. And I had a corner penthouse suite, so like it was tough, but then I was going on to crying jags. But it was emotional. That maybe I was a little more predisposed to quivering and shakiness or whatever, but you have to impound that situation with the fact that I have pre-existing stuff that can get set off. Knowing your triggers is important. Yeah. You know mine.
I do at this point now. We know each other pretty well. And I think that as a couple, we do, well, I would say, for me, he's my number one support. He's the one I would go to first. He's the one that knows me more than anybody else.
Yeah.
I think, it goes both ways there. But like he said earlier, our mental health issues and, our recovery and what we do about them look very different. They do. I'm good for, like, when I get, I have to make sure I'm aware of when I'm not doing well. I have insight to it. So my main thing is distract. I will go out in the garden. That's one of my biggest things that I do
daily, if you can.
If I can get out there and work, and it helps. It helps me a lot. Even you guys, and working on videos and things like that helps me so much.
Part of it too.
Yeah, I love putting time into editing. Like, when I have the time to do it. When it's rushed, it's kind of like, it's not quite as enjoyable.
Not quite.
It's not quite as
therapeutic. It's not as therapeutic when it's like that.
Right. So there's that. I tend to do that. And like I had said in my video, I do have the luxury of working with my therapist, like at my job.
So if you need a quick sidebar, you can
absolutely, and we do. We lean on each other a lot. At work, which is nice. So definitely to have that person in your life, and I'm all for therapy. But I don't think it has to be a therapist, but you definitely have to have that one person that you trust, and that
one trusted friend is enough to at least start with. And if that's all you ever get, you'll still be okay. But one person, I totally agree with that.
And like, in addition to that, like, I know distracting sounds like
avoiding,
that's, avoiding or whatever, but no, I'm participating in something that's therapeutic, and that ultimately I come out of it feeling better. You know, now that's not to say that medication is another big one. You know, and I am on psych meds. Somebody did ask, you know, what psych meds am I on? I'm only on one. I'm on Cymbalta.
Vitamin Steve.
Vitamin Steve is my medication. Oh, I like
Don't
that.
ever decide your relationship is going to make you sane.
Right.
It won't.
No.
Working on yourself to gain your sanity is the only reason we got married. Like when we met, we were in inpatient treatment, drug and alcohol, and we split up and you went to a halfway house and I went to a halfway house. So we didn't like hook up in rehab. We reconvened later once a lot of the shit had passed.
Oh yeah, we stayed in contact and we were like
writing letters
friends,
like old school.
And, you know, we didn't enter into a relationship for years literally later, you know. And then, you know, you get to know each other very well, and to, you know, be as supportive for each other, you know, it takes time and it takes, you know, work and all that. And we put the work in, and, you know, which is very, very good. But, yeah, I do take, Cymbalta. Now in the past I have taken Zoloft, which did nothing. I didn't like it. It made me just flat. I wasn't happy. I wasn't sad. I wasn't anything. I didn't get excited about anything. It just didn't work for me. And that was it. And then, but the Cymbalta has been working very well for me. And I think is it the one that also has a side effect
physical? For folks who have the comorbid stuff, they'll prescribe it, and people report that their mood and some of their physical pain is relieved with it. So I can see why it was a good pick for you.
Yeah. I wish I would have found it early. It works very well, so well that I wish I would have started this earlier.
Yeah, well, what can you do?
Yeah.
My mom has a similar quirk. She didn't want to go. She participates in mental health treatment, and she works at a place that does social services. So she's around it all day. Plus, she raised me. So she was around it all day for the last 42 years. As that. But same sort of, the way she went about it was therapy, talking to someone. And she went through her faith. She went through the church, and they recommended someone through Catholic Social Services. And then she liked it so much, she got a job.
Yeah, now she works there,
But until she had her own stuff sorted out, it's more difficult to think of other people when you're sucked into yourself. Not necessarily in a foodie beauty sort of sucked into yourself way. But when I'm sick, I get real self-centered. I can't see past my nose. I don't know how you're doing because I probably haven't asked in 3 weeks. Like, because I get stuck on me. Well, what if something bad happens? What if I'm going crazy?
And speaking of like the work that was done as a couple, that was part of it too. Because I used to think that, like when he was maybe not doing so well, and it is a self-centered type of a thing, and didn't ask me how I was doing, didn't participate in, and I didn't realize, you know, I had to learn what that was about. It wasn't what I thought it was. He just doesn't care. He just doesn't blah, 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 you know. So it was learning. To, you know.
From each other. And it's still ongoing.
And it is. It's ongoing,
And I have faith in different treatments. I take meds too.
I
used to take about 9 different medications daily. Now I take 4, I believe. Maybe 5. I have a prescription for hydroxyzine, Benadryl, Atarax. It's a weaker, but I have a history of addiction. So typical ones like Klonopin or Xanax, they're not a fit for me. I'm more like, as needed means nothing. I would take the whole thing. Who couldn't be a little less anxious? So, but after the 10th one, you start to have consequences. So some meds I can take for that, some I can't. I have a mood stabilizer. And then I have, that's Lamictal. And then I have an antipsychotic. It's Latuda, which just went generic, thank God, because it was $1,400 a month cash. Thank God I have insurance. But if I don't have insurance, what do I do? You know, what do you do?
A lot of people find them.
You're only that sick, really.
And that's a whole other discussion.
That's got its own space. But talk about, you know, and we've seen things, we've gone through crises as a couple, like homelessness, sudden homelessness is a crisis. And I remember crying, and then you were crying. It's your turn to be the tough one. I don't want to do it right now. And then it was my turn to do it and get through the next thing. So we managed through that. But before we discussed possibly going to couples therapy before we started dating. To see if it might be a good idea. Now that's a little far. I'm not saying you have to, but it's kind of, we had thought about it to make sure we were off to a good start. Or should we even invest the time? So we wanted to get an opinion about that. So even all the way back from then, I started therapy recently because I don't want to take another med. And I'm having some mental health symptoms, mostly anxiety. And those pills aren't really an option for me. So therapy and trying to find new techniques to deal with it is what we're going to try for this.
Yeah.
And we'll see. I know pills work. There's tons of them. You know, I could take more medication. They'd prescribe it, but I'd be a zombie.
I know. And
all day.
Really like that.
Then that flashes me back to the older psych patients who drooling is not a side effect of schizophrenia. It's a side effect of being medicated.
Yeah.
So not everything, you know.
That's true.
But we'll end on a grateful note.
Yes, because I always like to end up
Let's
on...
bring it back around full circle here.
Like for hope, because, you know, I don't know. Talking about mental health can get you down, but, you know, the big thing is that there is absolutely hope. People do recover from mental health issues.
All the time.
They do all the time.
We are always so used to that word with sobriety and drug and alcohol, but people who live with chronic mental health concerns can carve out a recovery of a decided life that this is how I want to live. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to keep myself well enough to go do it.
Yeah.
Too. Because when you're well, you can have goals and they actually happen sometimes too. Like I didn't think I'd get married, but I thought I was too. Well,
I didn't think I would either. I didn't.
I wasn't sure you'd say yes. I thought you might run out.
Run out?
Because I did it on camera on Christmas
I
Eve.
know, live.
I did it live.
Camera.
Search for what you'll find it if you want to look for it.
I kind of had to say yes. I mean, you know.
I know. Well, thank God. I did better in the prenup.
Worked out.
It all worked out in the end. And it will continue to. And it was even within our
magical time, actually.
It was even within our vows to address conditions, you know, in this condition or whatever condition you end up in.
Yeah.
Because it's occurred to me that you'll need physical help sooner than later. And I'm here. But I didn't know if you'd want someone close to you or if you'd want a total stranger. Like I want someone I don't even know helping me with my hygiene, but some people are much more comfortable having a family member, a spouse, a partner, somebody who's into it. So as we're getting older, I'm in the 40s now, and life gets a little hard. It gets a little sparse. I'm getting more gray hairs if there was room for it. And we'll have more of these decisions to come. Like I said on my advance directive, you're the next person I have. And all my emergency contacts, and you can call the doctor even if I don't want you to. He's signed a release, so you can check and see, so I can tell if you're fibbing.
Yeah.
And rat you out with love.
Yeah.
If you're not doing the right things you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much. I think that's all I have to say about it. I like that we talk about mental health on this channel because
I do too. I'm glad we got back to it too because I think it's pretty much how this channel started. I mean, it was a weight loss thing, but you tied it into your mental health because your eating disorder, I mean, that's a mental health.
That was
falls under mental health.
That was the big challenge and kind of focus of the first 6 months. I mean, even of the channel, it was that I was on a weight loss journey, but I had a history of eating disorders. So I'm going to make the tightrope walk to see if I can do with one or the other. Yeah. And then, you know, film slips and that and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. There's old. What do you see the content if you look? The phone's like a potato. And no mics, no lights, nothing like that.
No editing.
So, no editing.
Didn't think that I could do it. I was
doing the thumbnails. Yeah. And it looked like it was like done by someone who really didn't know how to really didn't know how to do it. But again,
and look how far we've come.
Look how far we've come. Hey,
we got a carnival going on.
We have a carnival. We have a YouTube channel.
We do.
We have a car in our name.
We do.
We just re-signed a lease.
We do. We have a nice place.
But what difference a year makes?
Oh, I know.
This time, in the couple months in, we were still scrambling for stuff and still trying to get it together. We hadn't even really unpacked completely from the last place. And it was just a little while after the wedding and
that was a prime example of we leaned on each other big time during that time. Yeah. And a huge help was you guys. Yeah. I mean,
not to blow smoke, seriously.
The messages, the concern, the what can I do for you? What do you need? Yeah. The gifts that came in, the outright money that you sent.
People went that far with it, and it was very touching, honestly.
It was a show of support. I had never thought that would happen, and it helped so much. We got through it.
Mentally, that support was a reminder. People care. They really do.
Yes.
And in the past, other people cared. And in the future, other people will care. Yeah. But it's just, people want to reach out and help someone they see who's struggling.
Yeah.
I have a feeling a lot of our viewers and subs get mental health maybe a little more than the average person, either with lived experience or a family member or something like that. So you guys are a fun audience to talk to about it too, because I know there's enough people interested in it too. So
yeah.
Well, I'm going to leave it there.
All right.
While your comfort animal sleeps.
Yeah,
Mine's in the window.
I was going to end on. I was going to say, you know, and another big thing is
I talk to Aki. He's the last person I see before I leave the house, and the first one I see when I get home. And I'm always like, "We got through another day, Oscar. We did good." Or I've been crying for 7 hours, Oscar. Let's chat. But just lay on the bed with him and put on something on YouTube and kind of half pass out petting him has been a fun thing. Yeah, it makes me feel useful. You know, pets are always very healing. Yeah. If you're in a good place to have one, I say get one. So, but on that note, have a good Friday night.
Yes, and a great weekend, too.
We will do the same. Have a good weekend. We're going to have nice weather here for a change. It's not going to be super hot, and it's not going to rain. You're going to be outside all weekend. I hope so. Probably all weekend. Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. Please do subscribe. Hit the thumbs up as well on your way out. You can find us on X, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Accent, they're the same thing. All our contact info and stuff is below. So thank you. Don't forget to check out yesterday's video. There's a giveaway embedded into the video. There's a giveaway. Tomorrow I'll be back. Tomorrow the carnival will be back. And it's you. Yes, it's me. Steve will try it. Carnival style. Yeah. But yes, we've spun our Wheel of Chance all week this week. So if you want to enter those contests, hit up the Mondays with Marc last couple, beginning of this week. And yesterday's video, there was a giveaway in there too. And all you have to do is comment below those videos. And I think we may have another one coming up tomorrow. We just may. And then I'll be back on Mondays with Marc, and then we'll close down the carnival, and we will pick all the winners that day. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, thank you. That's it. That's all she wrote. Yes, everybody have a fantastic weekend, and we will see you next time. Ciao. Bye. Look after yourself, you hear? Yes, you got this. You got this.